Now, I don't know how you decided to travel to work today. You may have decided to go by bicycle, you may have gone by bus, you may have gone by train, you may have gone by boat, you may have gone by car, you may have indeed gone by motorcycle. What you will probably have seen at some point is some collection of climate change fanatics telling us that if we don't do anything and we don't do it soon, we will all die a horrible death as if the Amazon was burning around us as we actually speak. Let's talk to Brendan O'Neill, who's the editor of Spiked Online, a man who I'm sure is making his own sacrifice today to save the planet. Brendan, a very good morning to you. Welcome.
Hi, how's it going?
Yeah, very well indeed. Now, are you making some kind of sacrifice to save the planet today? Because you do know, don't you, that in 11 years we are going to be no more.
Well, that's what they say. I mean, what a load of rubbish.
Well, quite.
It really it has become this kind of fundamentalist cult. You know, they're traipsing through the streets, talking about the end of the world, telling us all how sinful we have been and the fact that we are going to be condemned with hellfire, or as they refer to it now, global warming.
Yes.
I mean, it really does echo the kind of backward millenarian cult movements of the past. And of course, they now have their messiah in the figure of Saint Greta,
yes,
who has come to save us all from doom and save us from our own sinful behaviour. I think they're all completely bonkers.
The trouble is, though, all the politicians that I see are trying to kind of cozy up to these characters because they think, in my view, completely wrongly, that they are the future, that these people will suddenly vote Labour if Labour goes all green on them, and they will suddenly vote Conservative, like Theresa May thought, because she's going to promise to be carbon neutral by 2030. I mean, it's kind of the creeping cult is creeping into the corridors of power.
Absolutely, and the thing is, the thing about these kids, they think they're being rebellious, but they're not at all. They're conforming to what adult society has been telling them for the past 10 or 20 years. And in fact, these kids have been indoctrinated. They've been indoctrinated by their teachers and by politicians with this kind of end-of-the-world ideology, and they're out on the streets just repeating that back to adults, and the adults are giving them a big round of applause. The whole thing is really weird and embarrassing. But I think these kids are not the future. There are so many other... I mean, they are mainly just kind of well-off middle-class kids bunking off school and calling it a climate change activism.
Yeah.
There are loads and loads of other kids around the country who don't share their kind of end-of-world fears. And I think they're the people we should be looking to, rather than these kind of middle-class miserablists who are taken to the streets today.
Yeah, well, there are slightly more pressing matters to be taken care of, aren't there? Like, for example, the creeping... We did a story yesterday about the creeping rise of violent crime in this country, the creeping rise of cocaine use, the creeping rise of sort of, county lines gangs. Never mind 100,000 kids in Melbourne marching to save the planet. We've got some really, really big problems socially in this country, which nobody's paying any attention to.
We've got huge problems, and the thing about the climate change movement, this kind of end-of-world nonsense, is that it really is a way for people to distract attention from what I would consider to be more pressing problems, like crime, like unemployment, like Brexit, which I think is a very important thing that we push through and act on the democratic vote. But there is a whole swathe of society, they tend to be the more privileged sections of society, who don't want to talk about any of that, who certainly don't want to talk about Brexit unless they can kill it off. And so they try and distract attention by creating this politics of fear and this narrative of fear, which says to us all, if you don't change your behavior, if you don't recycle every day, if you don't stop driving around in your big cars, we're all going to die in 11 years' time.
Yeah.
It's a completely nonsensical...
Also, can you explain to me, Brendan, when it was that the kind of lunatics took over the asylum, we decided, or parents decided, I'm looking at my screens around the studio here, and the BBC have got some kid on called Ping Ping, who's 9 years old, talking about how upset she is that we're not doing enough to save the planet. When did we start listening to 9-year-olds about policy and about government sort of direction? When did that happen?
Yeah, that's the weirdest thing about all of this. The way in which adults are bowing and scraping at the feet of these children, and they are these kind of saviours come to enlighten us all about the best way to live. I actually find some of these climate change kids a bit creepy.
Yeah.
I mean, they are these kind of wide-eyed...
It's like, do you remember that movie Children of the Corn? That Stephen King
exactly.
one? I mean, but they're all kind of staring at people as you walk past,
It's very Children of the Corn. It's very wide-eyed, and a lot of them suffer from this new mental illness, which is called eco-anxiety.
Yes.
They're all absolutely terrified. They're all petrified about the future, and they're traipsing through the streets preaching at adults and telling us how sinful we are. It really does feel like a childish cult.
Yeah.
And I think someone needs to say to these kids, shut the hell up,
Yeah.
get back into school,
Get back
do
to
your
school.
maths and English homework.
And when you get home, do the bleeding dishes as well while you're at it, and cut the lawn and do the hedges, and, start behaving like children. Be seen and not heard. And I don't apologise for that. It doesn't make me some kind of Victorian father. I've raised 4 kids, right? 2 of them are still teenagers, and not one of them is a climate change protester.
Yeah, it's exactly right. And I don't know anyone whose kids have turned into climate change protesters. It is a certain section of society. And I really do think we need to get a handle on these kids and tell them to go back to school. I think the most tragic thing, everyone used to bunk off school in the past, but at least you did it to have a day of fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Or to, chill out and smoke a cigarette behind the bike sheds or whatever we did. You didn't do it for this worthy cause of telling mankind that he's doomed to destruction if he doesn't change his behavior. So I think it's ruining the kids' lives because they are being pumped with this politics of fear by irresponsible adults, by irresponsible teachers. It's creating this new fearful and self-righteous generation who think that they have the answers to all the problems in the world, and they don't have any answers at all.
I mean, I think, to be a bit philosophical about all of this, is there something missing in our world which makes people want to sort of join hands in some way and feel as if they're part of something? Have we somehow given up on individualism? Have we, because I don't know whether we've lost religion, therefore we've had to find a new religion? I'm wondering how this has happened, because the parents are to blame, for sure.
I think there is a large element of this is religion replacement. And so the disappearance of the old religions has disorientated many sections of society.
Yeah.
That's absolutely true. And environmentalism feels to me like a new fundamentalist religion. It really does feel like that. And I think the adults are to blame. They are the ones who are telling kids that the end of the world is nigh. They're the ones who are telling kids that their house is on fire, which then, of course, Greta Thunberg repeats. And, if you look at someone like Greta, this is a very troubled young girl. As her mother has written about in great detail, Greta has a number of mental problems and mental illnesses.
Yeah.
And yet we are pushing forward children like her to the forefront of this apocalyptic, Armageddon-like movement and telling them that the house is on fire and everyone must panic. This is a very unhealthy culture to foist on children.
It really is, and you'd have to wonder how it's going to end, because I don't think in her particular case it's going to end very well. She's going to probably have to be removed from the public eye at some point because it's all going to become too much for her. But I do worry about the types of behaviour it's all encouraging with politicians. I mean, Sadiq Khan, I think later on, either this month, this month or next month, is going to have a car-free day in London, which basically means you can't drive a car into London, you won't be able to get around in a car. It's nonsensical.
Yeah, what I think we're seeing is the rise of kind of eco-elitism, where you have these politicians issuing these diktats about how people should be behaving and even banning us from doing certain things. I think someone like Sadiq Khan doesn't understand the way in which most ordinary people live. The fact that we need to drive to get around. They refer to car journeys as wasteful. They refer to flying as wasteful. They refer to the consumption of meat as a bad idea. But these are all things that bring pleasure to people's lives, or which are an essential part of people's lives. And you have these kind of crazy people in movements like Extinction Rebellion, which want to raise taxes on flying so that it becomes expensive.
Well, they basically say they don't. They've said, haven't they, that they don't want you to fly except for in an emergency. Yeah, or unless you're Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, of course.
That's absolutely right. They want a situation where people can only fly once a year, and if they fly after that, they have to pay an extraordinary amount. But what about, Britain's Indian community or Irish community, and suddenly there's a funeral, or suddenly someone's ill and they have to fly abroad? I mean, these kind of onerous environmental measures would have a seriously detrimental impact on people's lives. And the eco-elitists don't seem to care. No. They don't think about how ordinary people live, and they don't think about what ordinary people want. They only think about reining everything in, banning things they don't like, and making life miserable.
And of course, the other great phrase that they love to use, in addition with "the house is on fire," is that the science is irrefutable. Well, actually, the science is not irrefutable, because if you actually analyse the science is all very well up to a point, Lord Copper, but actually the predictions have always been proved to be completely and utterly wrong, completely and utterly spurious, and completely and utterly untrue. Every single prediction that's ever come out of the United Nations has been wrong.
Yeah, that's the most striking thing about all environmentalist or conservationist movements over the past 200 years, really, which is that every prediction they made, overpopulation, running out of food, the acid rain, global cooling, global warming,
the ozone layer,
proven, the ozone layer, all this stuff that we were brought up on is just proven to be incorrect. And I think their misuse of science is actually really unforgivable, because it's the way in which they use science almost as the word of God. You know, Greta Thunberg says, you must obey the science.
Yeah.
And what they do is they destroy science in the process, because they turn it into this rigid commandment from on high that everyone has to bow down in front of. But of course, the whole point of science is that it's supposed to be open-ended, experimental. It's supposed to try to understand the world, but open itself up to the possibility that it's wrong about certain things. So they're really ruining science too by turning it into this kind of biblical edict that everyone has to obey.
And just the other day, I did a story which I came upon, which is that the United Nations is now offering grants to teachers in this country to teach climate change. So now there's a massive business behind all of this, by the way, Brendan, which I'm sure you know about. People are getting very wealthy off frightening the bejesus out of people.
Yeah, and, you know, schools have a lot to answer for, because, if you know, I do talks in schools quite a lot, and
you need to do more, I think.
The climate change stuff is everywhere. I mean, it's the only thing kids talk about. You know, there are posters on their walls and all this kind of stuff. What I want to say to these people is, listen, it's actually unforgivable that in a world in which 3 billion human beings still live in dire poverty, you pretty middle class, well-off people are on the streets calling for an end to economic growth. That is not the solution to the problems that humanity currently faces. We need more modernization, we need more progress, we need more economic development in order that everyone can enjoy the kind of lives we do. And I think a lot of people are pretty sick and tired of these, you know, fairly posh people taking to the streets and saying, well, everyone else can't have what we have, because otherwise the planet will go up in flames. It's really hypocritical.
It really is totally and utterly hypocritical. Brendan, thank you very much indeed. Brendan O'Neill, editor of Spiked Online, making an awful lot of sense about something which is incredibly ridiculous. I can't believe that if you are a parent, you have given permission for your children to take the day off school. I can't believe that the schools have given permission for those children to take the day off school. My own kids are in school today. They have not taken the day off, because if they did, I'd be leaving this studio straight away at 1 o'clock and going down and giving them a good hiding. No, of course, I'm just joking. I don't do that. That would be wrong, wouldn't it, to hit your children? That's not allowed anymore. No, absolutely not. But they're sensible enough to actually know that they quite like driving around in my Jaguar. They quite like flying to Portugal for their holidays. They quite like going to America to see their family. They are not, by any stretch of the imagination, joining the Thunderbird unit. Thanks very much indeed.